So good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are. Um, so we continue with these meetings. The title is Sanctuaries of the Heart, and we have presented this idea of sanctuary in three different ways. The idea of an external sanctuary, like a place, hermitage or a church or some sort of temple, where a deity, some form of deity, is kept, and we go there for worship. Like a sacred place, external sacred place. And then we have talked about the idea of a sanctuary as the union within ourselves, within our own awareness of love and awareness of presence. Okay? This idea of positive emotions, let's say. We've talked about the external hermitage, and then the internal hermitage being the the abiding of our attention in positive emotions, and emotions that are basically support our well-being and the well-being of those around us. It's funny how it's not funny, but it's kind of funny how we often feel entitled to being enraged and outraged and so upset and feeling angry, and when we think we are right, and we might be right, and in a certain worldly way, um, but that doesn't mean that abiding in emotions like anger and hatred and in any form is actually beneficial for us in any way. So the idea of there's an external sanctuary, which is very clearly the temple. The inner sanctuary is this abiding in positive emotions, no? Especially love and kindness, and we'll be talking about the 5 A's today. So that's really more important, because the outer sanctuary is very easy. You just go there, do whatever, but everything is external. Okay, I've been watching, because I'm kind of studying a little bit Italian for our trip, and I've been watching a lot of Italian movies, and most of these movies are connected to the mafia somehow. So Italians have a lot of mafia movies, and some of them are quite enjoyable. And these people are hardcore Catholics. Like, they are like all the gangsters. Are like they have a big temple in the house. Like the head of the gangsters of is reading the Bible, and then he's going kill 20 people, and then he's coming back to read the Bible. So you know the external, it's very easy to put together. Now the internal is it's where really things start getting very useful. No? So the hope is that the external sanctuary is going to be an inspiration to cultivate the inner sanctuary, which is the positive emotions. And through the abiding in the positive emotions, the what we call the subtlest, the most subtle, or the secret sanctuary, we're going to really be able to perceive it, which is a state of awareness, a state of presence. So this really, when you can see it in these three ways, no, like outer, inner, and secret, or outer, inner, and very subtle, the spiritual practice becomes extremely simple, because then there's no division between my religious practice or my spiritual practice in my day to day. I know in some ways we always talk about the same thing, but I don't know, there's much more to talk about. So whatever you are, any time of the day, right now, so you just bring your awareness to the present moment. That's the innerst, that's the sanctus sanctorum. We call it the heart of the sanctuary. And there the awareness is present. So we call this arriving. Okay. We'll be talking today about the 5 A's, and the first of the A's is attention. So, arriving in a way is just gathering back your attention. You might not have 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours a day to practice meditation, or to whatever practice you want to do. But certainly you have 24 hours a day to cultivate attention in whatever you're doing. So you arrive, and as you arrive, you're already crossing the threshold of this sanctuary of the heart. The awareness itself is the heart. And then you soften. So you first soften physically, to any hardness. Um, and then you soften like your heart, you soften your points of view, you soften especially you soften your righteousness. And that gives you a natural sense of openness. So the more open you are to the experience of reality as is, the more you establish yourself, the deeper you go into the experience of the sanctuary, the experience of the divinity. And again, being open to the experience of the moment as the moment is, it's not about justifying. You still have opinions and you still have preferences. And it's just a matter of recognizing, okay, what is really the background of everything that I feel, of everything that I um, believe. So you arrive to the present and you soften. So nobody can tell me that you don't have time during the day to do this. You arrive and you soften, you rise and you soften. I suggested to read this book, I left it downstairs. The You're Not What You Think. Because really, ultimately, the only real spiritual practice is to dismantle the hardening of our ego. Like it's to dismantle our self-centeredness. There's no other spiritual practice. If that could be done efficiently and easily, all these world religions would not be more than just cultural traits, you know. But because we have a very hard time looking into ourselves, into how we are trying to impose our sense of separateness over others, we create these tremendous systems and then cause a lot of problems. So the main practice to establish the sanctuaries of the heart is to arrive to the moment and then to soften. And the softening is extremely important because then ultimately you realize that even those who you greatly disagree or who you realize that they do things that you don't approve or that really cause harm to others, um, ultimately they are the aim is to find some sort of love, to feel loved, and therefore everybody is worthy of that love. And also when you soften, and I'm sorry I'm going on this on and on, but it just I think it's much more fundamental to grasp the basics of what we can do in day to day than to actually put in place very complicated meditation systems that then require time to take time apart of your day that you might do or not might do. Um, so when you soften, when you really can arrive to the present moment and realize how you're feeling and you soften, all those who are troublemakers, all those who are causing harm, all those who are doing all these things that really make you feel outraged. We live in a society that, everybody, from one point to the other one has so many reasons to be outraged. And just the anger continues. But so from the worldly point of view, that's okay, that's normal. Just people go about their day with their emotions and it's normal. But, when we engage in our conversation, I think we should talk as practitioners, you know. So for a practitioner, finding somebody who is doing something that makes you feel outraged is actually gold, because it's going to start pointing to your own shortcomings. Like Jesus says in the Bible several times now, like loving those who love you, it's very easy. Like there's no, it's very easy. Loving a baby, piece of cake, yeah. Cute baby. Usually most babies are cute. Some of them are maybe not so cute, but most of them are cute, yeah. Now, feeling love, feeling compassion for somebody who, from the worldly point of view is a complete piece of, the humanizing person. Wow, that's gold for a practitioner. So when you run into something like this, of course, it's normal that, emotions and opinions come up. And, that's, a little bit like when you pour a drink, of, soda, whatever. So there's some foam at the beginning, but then the foam kind of subsides. So you come into a situation and, there's all the emotions that come, but the practitioner has to see through, has to see through. Otherwise, you'll never be able to enter into the sanctuary of the heart. Otherwise, you'll be able to all these vacation, all these trips, all the sacred sites and all these practices, but the opinion will be still very shallow. As long as something doesn't fit your agenda, then you just get angry. So there has been no progress there. Okay. So you arrive, you soften, and then let's do a little practice. Start with a centering and purifying breathing. Okay. So starting with the right hand, lock the right nostril and breathe through the left. You don't breathe through both nostrils, yeah. Just feel the deliciousness, like arriving, when you gradually get more used to arriving and softening, there's a deliciousness to feeling present, to feeling here. There's a deliciousness to being. So let's do one more round, but now you can include the Omahung breath. So when you breathe in, you feel the sound of the breath comes with Om. You hold Ah for a moment, and as you breathe out, when you exhale, you hear the sound internally, you hear the sound or aligned with the breath, mixed with the breath, hear the sound Hung. Okay? I cannot overemphasize the depth of these two very simple practices, alternating nostril breathing with the Omahung, and then just resting. We are both uh, settling our mind and purifying the channels. So then the Omahung is like this, it's almost like you are, uh, going on a date or going to, an important meeting or a wedding or something, and you shower and you do your hair and do all these things. And then, so that's the purification part, which in this case, in our case, purification really just means allowing the mind to settle so you can see through the state of duality. And then the Omahung represents or it's the vibrational form of the mind, the energy, the body, the energy, and the mind of all enlightened beings. So once the mind is calmer and the train of thoughts is, subsided, um, then with the Omahung, you're actually putting this most exquisite, beautiful dress. So you're dressing yourself, you're transforming yourself into the actual deity. Um, yeah. So you arrive, you soften, you center, purify, prepare yourself, and then you go for refuge. Okay, any form to whomever your highest teacher is, your lineage, your tradition. Um, so this is in page 2, our refuge form of the prayer. To the sublime teachers who have realized full awakening and unconditional love, to the teachings to realize full awakening and unconditional love, and to those ahead of me, and my buddies on the path to realize full awakening and unconditional love, to those I go for refuge until I reach full awakening. By the merit of practicing the 6 great virtues, generosity, discipline, patience, joyful effort, awareness, and wisdom, may we attain full awakening for the sake of all beings. So you imagine your teacher, your main teacher, whomever it is, and it's surrounded by all the great teachers and saints and angels of that tradition. And you're really like presenting yourself with humbleness, and you feel that from the heart of the teacher, from the mind of the teacher, there's this just stream of blessings that comes. To the sublime teachers who have realized full awakening and unconditional love, to the teachings to realize full awakening and unconditional love, and to those ahead of me on the path to realize full awakening and unconditional love, I go for refuge until I reach full awakening. And this full awakening, I mean, what do I know? But what I gather from my, observing my teachers and, conversations and, my simple experience, it's not, we're not thinking about escaping anywhere or, it's just being awake in this world with love in one's heart and presence. It's very simple. By the merit of practicing the 6 great virtues, generosity, discipline, patience, joyful effort, awareness, and wisdom, may we attain full awakening for the sake of all sentient beings. All. So the blessings from your teacher, from the lineage, come to your heart. And you journey, you kind of are in the heart of your teacher. The foundation of our path is devotion. Devotion to whatever the highest virtues of your tradition, the highest teacher of your tradition. This is not blind faith, this is informed faith. You have observed the path, you have read about it, you have understood the essence of it, and you have profound certainty that by following this, I can become every time a better and better person. That's the sanctuary of the heart. And it's very simple to see if a path is like that, a path that is constraining and making you, separate from others and, hate certain people or certain groups. So that's a path that is constraining. So that's not full. Okay? A path that is opening, that opens your heart to others, regardless if you like them or not, if you agree with them or not. that is probably a much more efficient path, let's say. Ultimately, we're all going to reach the same spot. It's a matter of how many more millions of lifetimes we want to suffer. So with this in mind, we read then the motivation prayers, okay? May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, this is on page 2, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they always rejoice in the happiness of others. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all illnesses that afflict the bodies and minds of beings be healed, and may no more illnesses ever occur again. So especially the illnesses of the mind, of the spirit, those aspects, those layers of the mind that are, cause our ego to be so self-centered, so me, mine, 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 and that creates so much harm. And of course, also Jesus says this in the Bible a couple of times, many times probably. It's so easy to see the little piece of, I don't know, I am paraphrasing, the little piece of wood in somewhere else eye, but we cannot see the beam in ours, or something like that is the quote, basically. It's Buddha said, tame your own mind. Don't, you don't have to be taming other people's minds. So we observe ourselves, and at the same time, we wish for everybody to be well. And especially this prayer, I think, is very applicable. This all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness, be free from suffering, and swiftly may I establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious awakening. All mother sentient beings, without exception, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. This week I had several conversations that were, different people, but the contents were almost identical. People who are having conflicts with people that seem rather unreasonable. So one of the beautiful things of conflict, of challenges, is like, if the relationship is possible through dialogue, it's very beautiful, because then both parts tend to grow. Yeah, you listen to the other person, you express yourself, and then the relationship deepens. So that's the ideal situation. Very often, unfortunately, it's impossible. Like, I've gone through something in my family, and I spent several hundred hours, trying to help parts communicate, and we've come to nothing. Actually, it's worse than before, no? So sometimes the other person is not going to be receptive, or you're not going to have the skill to. So sometimes all we can do is just to continue working on ourselves. But still, our aspiration, may all mother sentient beings, limitless space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness, be free from suffering, and swiftly may establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious awakening. So may I establish here is very important, because this, maybe the word is a bit misleading here, establish, because it seems almost like I'm going to take them there. But how am I going to take them there? To take anybody somewhere, um, I have to been there myself. So this is basically just one more way of saying I practice, but I practice for the benefit of others. That doesn't mean I have to be preaching, or I have to. This means the essence of my practice, I realize, it's like the more I can cultivate, the more I can understand the nature of my own mind, the nature of my own emotions, the more I can offer a space for others to go through the same thing. And there's a page in prayer in page 4 that we put here too. Okay, great glorious teacher, grant your blessings so that the mind of myself, so that my mind and the mind of all beings, without exception, turn to the teachings of awakening and unconditional love. Grant your blessings so that the teachings lead us to the path. Grant the blessings so that the path clears away confusion. Grant your blessings so that confusion transforms into wisdom. Feel the deliciousness of your being when you rejoice in the happiness of others, when you wish others well, when you say, okay, I know things are very complicated out there. We are living, um, interesting times. So what can I do? I mean, you can do many things. Obviously, none of this means that you should not be engaged in whatever, you think out there. I have one of very close friend of mine, very excellent Dharma practitioner. She's very involved with politics, so she's always sending, these messages that are very constructive. She's giving paths, steps. Okay, what can you do in this case? Okay. What are the options? Call all these offices. Like, she has steps that are actionable that go beyond rage. So that's the way of the world. And, that's very important. And if you feel called to that, that's 100% what you have to do. The way of the practitioner goes slightly deeper and turns to look into oneself. Okay, all these things that are outraging me from those, from them, from him, from her, at which level am I also doing myself in my day to day? I grew up when growing up, my parents were very involved in politics in Spain. And so, I grew up with, around this thing. And I would see, even as a child, it was very interesting because I could see how a lot of these people talk big words and they had this kind of common outer enemy. So they were from one party and obviously the other party was the enemy. But then so that was the bigger layer. Okay. But then you could see which, there were a lot of meetings in my house, or we would go to meetings, they would take us there and as kids we would play around. But then you could see the inner conflict between the people of that same party, you know? And so the conflict would just trickle, the same conflict that was between these two parties, then it trickled to the individuals within the party. And then within that, those individuals, there were smaller groups that also had conflict within themselves. So ultimately, the conflict is within the person. So the conflict we see out there, it's just the conflict of the human being trying to find happiness. So I know you all know this, and I'm going on and on about it. But because we're discussing about the sanctuaries of the heart, ultimately the sanctuary is the experience of love, kindness, compassion, and the wisdom that can see through appearances. So we arrive, we soften, we activate the energy of the central channel. We go for refuge. So our teachers say, hey, this requires a lot of extra assistance. Please bless me. Bless all sentient beings. And then because ultimately everything we perceive, all beings, all material things, everything, the whole universe, is made out of the 5 elements. So we start incorporating nuances to the practice that go beyond thought. So for this, for example, we use a 5-element mantra. I mentioned the other day, if you are outside, now here in Michigan it's a bit difficult these days, but once, the weather gets better, you are out in the park or, you're fishing or whatever you're doing, chant this mantra in nature, and you'll see. It's very beautiful. Om Om Eyam Kam Ram Lam Shuddhe Shuddhe Ah. Again. Om Om Eyam Kam Ram Lam Shuddhe Shuddhe Ah. The the Tao Te Ching, there's a, again, I'm paraphrasing, but there's a quote. The Tao Te Ching is one of the foundation books of texts of Taoism, and in a way Chinese medicine and a lot of other practices we do. So there's an explanation where it says from the one came the two, from the two came the three, from the three came the 10,000 things, something like that it says. So what that means is like this whole universe of infinite manifestations and possibilities, actually multi-universe. And it basically comes from the expression and interaction of the five elements. And the five elements come from the interaction of the creative energy that is the result from the polarities of yin and yang, or male, female. Um, and those itself are just a manifestation of pure consciousness. So the practice of this mantra, simple mantra, is all that we call like reversing the flow. Okay, so instead of the manifestation going down, so now we're almost going upstream and reaching the source. Once more. Om Ahom Eyam Kam Ram Lam Shuddhe Shuddhe Ah. We've talked about dream yoga, dream practices, a couple of times, and so often the easiest way to recognize the lucidity on the dream is when you're having a bit of a nightmare, or a dream that is kind of uh, too intense, or like a nightmare. So that applies. So because of the situation of the dream, like you either kind of want to break it, like transform it, or you realize, oh, actually this is a nightmare, this is a bad dream, and you're able to transform it, or you wake up, you awaken. So external situations that are extremely conflictive, challenging, have that same potential. So for a yogi, for a yogini, for a practitioner, um, these situations can be extremely useful to recognize the essence. Just notice the deliciousness of your being, not of your name, your age, your position, nothing that is added. Just notice the deliciousness of being. No need to think of God or the Buddha, nothing, just being. Just notice the deliciousness. So then, look, we do a bit of the healing smile, a smile into the earth. Beautiful smile that comes from the heart, goes into the heart of the earth. And the earth smiles back, okay, around you, this beautiful column of light that ascends, and then your feet up, this beautiful energy from the earth comes up your legs into your abdomen, through the center of the body, reaches your heart, and you smile there too, and then keeps going up into your crown, and then out the crown, where your hands, you stretch your arm, when your hand stretches, um, the light goes there and turns into this beautiful like flower. Okay, it can be a lotus, can be any flower that you like, that is flat, and above that flower there's this beautiful sun, this beautiful sphere of golden light. And it can be just that, or if you want, in the center of that sphere you can put your teacher is sitting there representing heaven, wisdom. um, Whomever your teacher is, Shiva, Jesus, whatever it is, whomever inspires you most trust, most desire to continue growing and healing. And then this smile that is going up from the earth through you goes out the crown and goes into the heart of that sphere of light, or the heart of your teacher. And it causes this beautiful radiance of golden healing light, just radiate all around you. So first in front of you, and then on the right side, on the back, on the left. It's totally surrounding you. Now, the nuance here is that first we had smiled into the earth, and there was this beautiful energy of the earth ascending around you. And now we're smiling into the heavens, as represented by this golden light, by this golden sphere of light above the head. And now that golden light from the heavens is ascending. So the ascending light of the earth and the descending light of the heavens mingle, like merge. And it's this beautiful, very gentle embrace of this. Imagine these two friends that love so much each other and are just seeing each other again after a long time. Or, you could, if you wanted to make it more passionate, these lovers, that have longed to be united. Those are the energies of yin and yang, giving rise to the creative energy that then gives rise to the elements that then gives rise to the universe. So you're surrounded by this exquisite union of the energies of heaven and earth around you. And then the energy of heaven continues like descending on you, and just like a shower that goes down the head, down the face, on the front of the body. And you notice all the tissues of the body softening, relaxing. down the abdomen, down the thighs, to the feet. And then it continues on the side of the body, so on the side of the head, on the right, your arm, the side of your rib cage, the side of the hips, thigh, the IT band, the calf, feet, foot. So with our smile, we're just guiding this light. Okay, now down the head, down the neck, back of the neck, shoulders, the back of your back, upper back, mid back, low back. Down the glutes, down the back of the thighs, calves, down to the sole of your feet. And then you could spend here as much time as you want. Now down the left side. Okay. So left side of the face, the head, the shoulder, left arm, rib cage, left, all the way to your foot. So you're surrounded by this exquisite light that is the healing light. It's like a nectar. Okay, you can have whatever temperature you want. If you're cold, it's warm. If you're having hot flashes, it's cool. Whatever you need. You're feeling dry, it's moistening. If you're feeling too moist, it's drying. This is like whatever you need. And then you're showered with this beautiful quality too. And then the light starts going, the healing nectar starts going in the crown, and your body's like this beautiful vase that is empty inside, and the light, the healing nectar just goes, like if you're pouring liquid on a cup. So it goes from the bottom, it fills up the feet, the toes, the feet, fills up the calves to the knees, at your own pace, fills up the thighs, the glutes, the genital area, the abdomen inside, the chest, and then the arms from the fingers up, the head. So you're inviting these energies, you're feeling these energies, and then you're letting go. And then if you feel that thought comes back, so you again like generate a little bit the visualization, the feeling, if you need to, and then you let it go. So it's this constant pulse, it's a dynamic pulse between doing and letting go. Action, allowing. Um, so again, you could spend here as much time as you want. Ideally, at some point, you would start going organ by organ. Internally, you would do the brain, then the eyes. Okay, I'm not going to do this now because of I want to discuss other things. But especially any organs that you feel you need support, you could go through the glands. Okay, all that is explained in the Healing Now book. You could go through the glands, the pituitary, the pineal, then the thyroid. Then you will do the thymus, the lungs, the heart. Okay. I've been seeing some of you that have been doing regularly this practice now for a little bit since we started. When you come for acupuncture transformation is so clear, because we are, first of all, we're activating the energy in our energetic field, what people call the aura. Okay. And so you're just smiling. So you're keeping your outside vibrant, but you're also keeping it receptive. Okay. It's not like, we're not putting like a wall. Okay. It's just like a space that is naturally vibrant. So there's no fear of the outside because there's this sense of energetic integrity that is then supported because our body is soft, the tissues are soft. One of my one of the things why I have insisted today talking about this being outrage and righteousness is like because those things cost so much inner attention. So it's not really about if your point is right or not right. It's really like it's trying to be so right, helping you or harming you. Can you find ways to still, engage in what you believe that is right without giving you a stroke? The other day, a gentleman came. He has lost his ear on one hearing on one ear, and he said, "I don't know what happened." So after a few questions, he kind of started crying a little bit, like he was tearing. And he said, "I have to be honest. This happened after I got super upset at a meeting at work. You could tell, like he was so upset, the yang just went up, burned his ear. He has not recovered. We're trying very hard. I don't know what's going to happen." So um, it happens. People get heart attacks, So we soften. And the softer we become when there's an energetic integrity, actually, the stronger we become. And then internally, so, there's this same thing. No? So the body's filled with this very beautiful, vibrant energy that is soft. So outside, we work on the energetic aura. On the surface, we especially work on the channels that, have all these pathways that are more surface. And then internally, all this smile is just working on the inner organs and the emotions. And at this point, again, like let's do just a couple of minutes of the Omahung breath. First, just feel the breath coming in and coming out. Hear the sound of the breath. We've been sometimes in some temples together, and even when you're in a temple, when you would say, "Oh, the presence of God here is so installed," when the temple is in silence, the only thing that you hear is your breath. When you're alone, you go into bed and, the day is finished and everything is quiet. I mean, you hear some little sound here and there, the house might be cracking from, whatever, from the cold. But ultimately, the thing that you hear, the thing that you can feel the most is your breath. So here, listen to the breath. So then, because of the yogis and the yoginis that have, become realized, have devised different supports for this, for the practice to be more efficient. So one of the supports that is very valuable is this Om Ahum breath. So when you breathe in, the breath writes, the mantra writes the breath. So you hear Om, the breath coming in, Ah, behind or around the navel. As you hold the breath for a moment very gently, and hung as you exhale out. Orthodox Christians have like, I think they call it Lord's Prayer. It just says, Jesus, have mercy on us. So you could devise, something that you align with the breath. I think the Omahung is um, very useful, but you could also, devise your own. So the breath brings in the love. The ah establishes the awareness. And as it goes out, it just renews our perception. So we are dressing with the Omahung breath as we are installing that vibration through the body just automatically by breathing in and out. We are dismantling this hardness by me mine. Need to take a couple of minutes. So I'm going to pause the recording and the video, and you can continue doing the breath or whatever you want to do, and we'll reconvene in just a couple minutes. Okay. If you don't have anything else to do, just stay with the breath. Continue doing the Omahom. So as you continue with the Omahom breath or with the healing smile, somebody was telling me earlier this week, I said, oh, it's so peaceful. So the peacefulness is the most like the foundation. Okay? So you have to make sure that the peacefulness becomes clear. So this clarity is not something that you have to force or visualize or anything. So you're just breathing. But you make sure that you don't get like super complacent and almost like your attention starts fading away into the piece. But there's like a certain degree of crispness to your mind. It's almost like if you're walking out, you're going for a walk in a nice fall day that is kind of cold. It's not too cold, but it's kind of slightly like, keeps you awake. So that is a very important quality. Wonderful. Um, are there any practical questions related to practice of what we've done? No? Okay. I sent this handout quality, longevity, and the 5 A's of relationships. I had suggested to read the book by David Richo. I don't know how you say his name, Richo, I guess. Um, so if you have not done it, I really encourage you to do it, because it's a good book in terms of how to recognize the patterns in which the ego tries to impose itself, the reasons why, that might be happening, which then helps us develop a sense of compassion, and then mechanisms to both work things out with ourselves, with others, and mechanisms also to do when, there's no resolution possible in terms of, a situation. So I highly encourage everybody to to read it. Again, you can see this over and over and over. It's like there's no end to it. I think this is one of the things that, the Buddha tried to make very clear. Jesus makes super clear, for anybody who wants to really read the New Testament, the Gospels, and pay attention. Without dismantling of the ego and dismantling of your own agenda to push over others for your own self-serving needs, there's no spiritual path. It's not possible, So I put a quote here at the end that it says, "No one can serve two masters." That's Jesus said that. They said that. So because we're going to Sardinia, so in the blue zones, okay, these areas where it's said that there's a lot of people who have lived over 100 in good health. So the anthropologists or the researchers that did that devised this thing that they call the 9 secrets. Okay, just basically 9 tips. So I just listed them here. Move naturally. That's So I'll read just first and read them. Move naturally, have purpose, life purpose, downshift, and the 80% rule. They apply to meals. The plant slant, wine at 5. I don't drink any alcohol, so I don't do any wine, but can be anything, can be tea. It just refers to having a time in the day that you are actually slow down and have connection with others. Belong, um, love ones first, meaning caring for your family, caring for elders, and having the right tribe. Somebody was last week or the week before was telling me like how much he's noticing that as he's doing more and more of his meditation practice, the hanging out with his friends, it's not like he doesn't like his friends anymore or he doesn't love them, but he realizes that how that kind of creates more turmoil in his mind. Okay, so it's very important the kind of company you keep. Okay? So I know, closely all of you here, or I think, yeah, everybody. So I know some of these you apply, but I think it's very important to really reflect on these. The pace in Europe in general is much slower. The pace when, if you, for those of you who have traveled to the places like, India or, Nepal, like in general, the pace in many of these places tends to be much slower. Of course, their material abundance seems to be also different. So there's almost this trade-off. Like some of my friends tell me, "Oh, you work so much, you never take almost any vacations," but they're always complaining about money, So sometimes it's difficult to find that balance, and But here in general in America, like work so much. Like this is something like unbelievable. And so this is, I think, an important reflection that everybody has to be doing. No? So the idea of moving naturally. Okay, I just got a. Um, I know, some of your parents are still, cutting the grass and doing the snow. Like we had the neighbor, her mom lived in Indiana. She passed away, but she was almost 95 and she was still doing her own grass, you know. So here we have this culture of going to the gym, and which is it's good, but super important just to keep in mind the importance of moving naturally, of working in your yard on, especially walking. I know a lot of you walk, so um, and then including, gentle movements like qigong, like yoga that really emphasize Pilates, that emphasize proper posture. Okay, so I know quite a few of you are already doing this. Um, the question and why I pointed out at the beginning we work so much is like, even though we know a lot of these things, very often because we are so busy with work and we're so busy with the emergencies of work, these are the first things. Self-care is the first thing that goes out the window. Yeah. And we think, oh, when I retire, well, a lot of people don't retire because they didn't take self-care. So, then is when the problems come. Okay. Um, this is probably the most important, I think, for me. Like this number two, like having purpose, living with heart, um, having a clear sense of meaning, add years to life and life to years. Whatever it is, obviously, for a practitioner, ultimately the purpose is to realize, to attain the state of what we call the Jivan Mukti, the state, attain awakening while alive, to be of service to others. Okay? But whatever it is, your purpose, like, sometimes people come to the office and say, oh, I'm feeling depressed, or, I'm feeling bored, and through the conversation, of course, there's a degree of depression that comes through imbalances of the neurotransmitters of the brain, and so there's a component that is medical, but even in those cases, so much of it is like, do I have a purpose? Do I have a purpose? Okay. And especially a purpose, I mean, of course, any purpose is a purpose, but a purpose that is not strictly material. Okay, a purpose that is of service to the community, and a purpose that is also transcendent, that goes beyond the accumulation of wealth and a position. Um, the downshift is so important, like basically to slow down. Often we hear the idea of slow down and we freak out because we have so much to do. So there's two types of slow down. Like a few weeks ago, I mentioned the idea of being very careful with multitasking. Okay. So the easiest way to slow down, we're very busy. I mean, I know, you know how busy I am with all the kids and up and down, and okay. So sometimes, trimming activities, it's a bit tricky. But there's a downshift, there's a slow down that is just a matter of a fraction of a second. Are you doing everything fast? Like we were driving from my house. I live by Rochester and Tinker, and we were driving to the Onyx, which is this rink here. It's literally like, it takes like 4 minutes with a car. So there was this car behind us that on the snow passed us like as fast as he could, because he tried to get in front of me, but he had to stop in the traffic light like 200 yards ahead. I know we'll all seen things like this on the road. So the reflection is like, am I doing that to myself? Am I just squeezing the speed? Go, 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 go. So it's just a matter of observing. Can I slow down a second, a fraction of a second, and even visualize your body posture, how your energy is so forward, and just kind of sit down mentally. You don't have to sit down, like just bring yourself, your awareness, your energy back into the central channel, arrive, and try to engage in exactly the same thing you were going to do, but 20% slower. This is obviously, then you are going to, the other suggestion is obviously to take down, to take time to break your day, to sit for meditation, for prayer. But even while you're sitting for prayer or for meditation, are you racing through it? So the idea here is like, and this is extremely important, it goes along the purpose. Um, just observe yourself. Even when you're doing something like, are you doing the dishes so you can go watch TV? uh, whatever it is, just slow down, just a tiny bit, nobody's gonna notice, and just be present, be present. The 80% rule, so the 80% rule is interesting because if you slow down, so the 80% rule refers to, not overeating, basically. So you, at some point, the stomach feels full, or, almost full. Okay, they say that's where the 80%. So you stop eating. Okay. Um, I have never seen dishes the size of dishes that until I came to the US here. Now maybe in Spain is the same thing. I don't know, we have three-course meals, but these dishes that is like four people could eat from the dish. Okay. So if you slow down and you're more present, you're gonna notice, okay, tummy is almost full. And just also even for a week, like observe how do you feel by eating a bit less? Okay? Applying the mindfulness to eating. The idea of doing more of a plant-based for both health reasons and just in general, uh, we live in a society that we want peace, and we're raising beings to be slaughtered so we can eat them. That's the truth. So um, also kind of trying to minimize, the amount of meat one eats, and chicken and fish, and trying to focus a bit more on plant-based diet. Um, that's an important reflection. And why not five? Again, I don't drink, so this, it can be tea, it can be anything. It just means like the day has a section where you just take the time to be joyful, to connect with your friends. In Spain, this is very common. People at the end of the day, they finish working and they might not go directly home. They go to the bar or the cafeteria and just have a drink there with their friends and talk about whatever, and just hang out, play dominoes, do whatever, sit in the plaza. So one of the things that I have observed here in the US, and maybe it's because we have our cars and the houses are separate, and like the actual degree of human connection is very lacking in some ways. And then you just get in your head, because if you go from work to home, to watch the news, and and then go to bed, and so but if you go and hang out with your buddies, and or with your girlfriends, and you just say a few jokes, and it just kind of, the whole system kind of just relaxes. So this is very important. um, Again, belonging to a community is along that, but a community of like a sangha, most like a faith-based group, because that's obviously extremely important. Whatever your practice, whatever your tradition is, where you can, all these things are similar. No, you need the worldly aspect of hanging out with your friends, and having, I enjoy very much hanging out with my buddies, and obviously I'm here, and most of my close friends are in other places, but still do a lot of phone calls and Zoom, and and we just say dirty jokes, and criticize our spouses and whatever it is. There's kind of that worldly aspect. Okay. And then there's the aspect of faith-based, which is more the community, okay, which is where you are, the spiritual community, where you're just reflecting on a deeper aspect, okay. And the right tribe, again, the kind of people you hang out with, very obvious, is going to determine the things you talk about, the things you engage, the activities, okay, everything. So um, I know these things are very easy to understand, they make sense. I would encourage you to, on your own, or you can, start a conversation on the chat we have, and just reflect, on, these things. Do I think they are important? Am I doing them enough? Are there other things that are important? Oh, here I missed one, the loved ones first, nurture bonds. Okay. So the the idea of connection, the idea of relationships is fundamental. Okay, so staying active, eating well, um, slowing down, okay, having a purpose. The big bulk of this, though, as you can say, it comes down to relations. Okay, so now this is where the thing gets interesting because, yeah, relationships can be great or relationships can be horrible. Yeah, relationships can be so challenging. So um, that's why I brought up here the 5 pillars of healthy relationships here in pages 4 and 5. So to have good friends, to have good relationships with your family, you have to be uh, at the level in which a relationship can be healthy. You know, I was never taught this growing up. I imagine, none of you did either. Um, um, so the quality of the relationships here, David Richo expresses these 5 points, okay, to a healthy relationship. These are some kind of 5 developmental needs that we all have both growing up and then as we are adults, you know, from the people we are in contact with, okay. First one is attention. And this is really where honesty comes very much into place. We are with people, but are we really with them? Or are we with my idea of what I need from this person and what uh, I think this person has to be? I was, when I was doing El Camino, the walk Spain, I did a lot of meditation practices to work on my family structure. And especially the male side of my family structure. And one day was super interesting. It was both extremely revealing and at the same time heartbreaking because at the time I was maybe 38 or something, and I realized that through my whole life, I had been around all these men, and I had every single time had some sort of agenda. I either needed to be fed or cuddled, or I needed money, or I had never for a single moment stopped, look at them and really listen and see who is this person, you know? So that you think that we think we're paying attention doesn't mean that you're actually paying attention and that the other person is gonna feel uh, heard, okay? Like that you are listening to them. This is extremely, extremely important. This is really where the sanctuaries, this is what establishes the pillars of the sanctuaries of the heart. So without this, spirituality is very difficult because even to the deity, people say, oh, God says this, God says that. How many people are reading the Bible, are reading gospel, like the gospel of Jesus, and not putting into practice pretty much anything that is saying there, and instead are making up stories in their minds to justify their own ego needs? Okay. So when you pay attention, when you listen to the other person, naturally you have to come to a point in which you accept that person, you receive it as that person is. Otherwise, there's no attention. That doesn't mean you have to agree with them. We're so afraid of acknowledging people as they are because we think it means I'm agreeing. You don't have to agree, okay? But you can sit with somebody and say, okay, this person is like this. I'm listening. Uh, why do I feel this change, need to change them? Ultimately, because you need to feel comfortable with your own agenda because you don't want to review your own ego, your own shortcomings. Okay. So attention, acceptance, appreciation. Okay. Really appreciating people. I know, I think this, uh, in a way, a lot of people, or a lot of you, based on my conversations and interactions, I think at many levels you do, like you appreciate people around you. Um, okay. And the affection, the appreciation, the affection, there's this book, The 5 Languages of Love. That was when I read that, Brooke brought it years ago. And it was very interesting for us because we realized that even though both of us, we were doing things for each other that we thought was expressing love, to each of us individually meant nothing. Okay, and this I see with my mom, like she does all these things to express her affection, but it's not really how maybe my sisters want to be loved. Okay, so unless you pay attention really to the other person and you connect with them and decide to accept them and appreciate them for who they are, it's gonna be tricky that your affection is actually gonna be received as affection. And then ultimately the idea is just to allow the other person to be as they are. So these are the 5 A's: attention, acceptance, appreciation, affection, and allowing. So then you go back to the breath. We could talk about this for a long time. The time is almost finished. So, but I really encourage you to understand. I mean, I'm sure you understand this, but I'm just a reminder. I know you're all very smart. Um, I appreciate you. Um, Put some time to reflect on this. Bring to mind any relationship that feels a bit shaky in your life, and put this in starting with yourself, the relationship with yourself, and put this in the context. Okay, put the relationship with this person and bring these 5 things here. And don't start by saying, oh, this person is not paying attention, this person, because then then again, we're in this mindset that is just blaming the other. These practices are for us to work on ourselves. Again, the Buddha said, tame your own mind. Okay? Don't need to tame the other people's minds. Okay? Like any relationship that you're having that is either shaky or not shaky, that you think is good. Like how many couples, one person in the couple comes up and says, okay, I want a divorce. And the other person is destroyed and said, but I thought we were doing okay. So no, you have not been paying any attention for the last 10 years. We are not okay. Okay. So think of, no, you don't have to do it now, whenever you want, and examine the relationship from what you are contributing and in relationship to these 5 aspects, okay? Especially the relationships between mothers and daughters. Those are the worst, baby. Talk about problems. Oh my God. I can see Cindy smiling. Cannot see Patrice, but I can see Melissa there. Diane, you ladies. Anyway, that's a little bit humor for them for the end of the day. Okay, let's close with the dedication. So by the virtue of our practice, by the virtue of our reflection, may the sublime awakened mind, the heart of unconditional love, arise where it has not arisen. Where it has arisen, may it never decline, but continue to grow forevermore. Whatever true joy and happiness there is, all comes from a mind that seeks the benefit of others. Therefore, may all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have a mind of loving kindness. May the self-grasping ignorance, the cause of all intolerable suffering that mother sentient beings, limitless as space, must endure in the 6 realms, be fully pacified, and may all beings care for one another with altruistic compassion. By the merit of having practiced healing meditation for my benefit and the benefit of all beings, may all beings, without exception, be well and happy. May there be peace in all lands, prosperity in all households, and joy in all hearts across all time and space. And may all the motivation prayers made for the well-being of beings come to fruition. So everything we've started to discuss today, our practice may be of benefit for us, for our families, for our community, for the country at large, for the world, for the universe. And may wherever we go, just plant these sanctuaries of the heart where, while we're there, once we leave, may we leave behind the inertia that people will establish healthy communication, that people will establish true care for each other. And that all the good intentions that people have, even when they manifest as terrible actions, may they transform into benefit for all beings.